episode 172 of Coffee and Co-Read, your source for all things literary with Kristen
and Catherine, where we believe there's nothing better than a hot coffee and an awesome book. Join us for our virtual book club where we take one book a month and dive into all of the drama, adventure, and romance we can find.
Hi,
hey, Kristen. We're killing it already today, guys. I just need you to know that as a baseline of where we are mentally and physically.
Yeah, we're killing it. Yeah.
We're good. We're great.
Promise. You're fine.
Yeah.
It's fine.
So, this week, we kind of wanted to talk about timeline a little bit. And I kind of feel like this conversation could go two ways. Are you fucking kidding me? There's an ant crawling up my window. We have ants. Ew. Why are you doing this to me? Sorry. I don't like them. Okay.
This just shows how much we're killing it today.
We are. Okay. Sorry. So yeah, this conversation, I think, could go one of two ways. We could get into two branches of it. But we'll probably take it in a third way that I have not anticipated because of the way today is going. So, it's timelines. So this book, I know the first time I read it, I was very confused by the timelines. And even earlier in the book, like, they're on the boat and they're like, 2 weeks pass. And it's like, 2 weeks didn't pass for everyone else. Like, the times don't really all match up.
No, it's not happening concurrently.
Yeah. So I guess, like, how do you feel about that is kind of the question. But the other thing is, I think it's this week. It might have been last week. I may have talked about it last week. But I think it was last week. Kale was like, it's been almost a year since he killed Cain. And it's like, this whole series is in 1 year. Like, those are the two timeline-y things that I was thinking about. But I think, now that I'm remembering it, I think we did kind of touch on that last week. That it's only been a year since the first book. But, how do you feel about how the timeline worked in this book? Like, did it work for you? Did it confuse you? Were you like, I get it because they need to tell the important shit?
I'll be honest with you. This is going to sound bad. I didn't really notice it a lot. If I'm being
oh, really?
honest. It wasn't until I started reading it again, because I was more just concerned with the plot and what was happening to the characters. So it really wasn't until I read it again, and again, that I was sort of like, oh, this is way, and I will say that it doesn't really impact much of what I'm doesn't really impact me in that I get confused and annoyed until that final battle, essentially.
Yeah.
Because I'm just
I think that's the
annoyed
biggest...
at the whole final thing, really.
That's the one that's like the most jarring moment of it.
Yeah.
Is during the final battle. But this week, we'll talk about, obviously, what happens this week. I assume you're not listening right now if you haven't read these chapters of this week, but if you are, what a wild life you live.
Yes. What an exciting life you lead.
What a wild time. But
when can we be a part of
so
it?
this week, yeah, tell us about your life if that is you. But this week, Dorian flies with some wyvern in a chapter after the wyvern that he flew with have already made it to Orinth. And that really fucked me up. I was like, what is that?
Because it backtracks into the past.
Yeah. And
it's funny because, so up until this point, if you've been following along, everything that we've read up until this point, we have sort of been okay, it could be believable for it to all be happening at the same time-ish. But, like, realistically, we have to think that the whole battle with Aelin in Aniel happened theoretically weeks before the Battle of Morath at Orinth that we're about to read. And, like, sort of, you know, it was only really, it happened before, theoretically, Aedion and Lysandra got involved in the battles there, with that they were involved in, and then Rolf showing up and like,
and
so like that's sort of what the mind fuck is that you realize afterwards that you're like, oh yeah, like all of this shit happened way before or way after when you think it happened, because you're reading it and you are sort of going along as if it's happening concurrently, but it's not.
Which makes sense to my brain. I guess the thing is, it fucked with my brain when I was reading it, and I guess that's the point, is she was trying to make it suspenseful of like, the final arc is suspenseful because we've been lied to about
when everything is
what is happening when. Yeah, it's interesting. I don't think I love it. Now, every time I read it, I know it's happening, so it's kind of fine. But, like, the first time I read it, I was like, wait, what? That doesn't make sense.
Do you know what I would love to do, actually? And this is going to be nerdy of me. I would love to go through the book again and bring out a timeline.
Yeah.
Because I would just like to be able to put it in sequence.
Yeah, and there are things that, like, you could match up to figure out the timeline. But it is, the beginning of the book, they all start at, like, 2 months later, basically, after Empire of Storms. So you really are set to believe that it's all happening. But then you're like, well, literally last chapter before this week where we're starting, Dorian fucked up Morath and all of the soldiers were there. And now this week, they're all making it to Orinth. So you're like, yeah, there's obviously a time.
But like, would
jump.
you have said that Aedion and Lysandra, because the first time we really see them in this book, they're already entrenched in battle. So like, I wouldn't have said that took place the same.
But I think he literally says, because it might be like the first fucking chapter we get, because we get the prince, we get the princess, and then we get Aedion's
right, and he's fighting.
And yeah, but he says it's been 2 months and no one notices that Aelin and Lysandra are never in the same place.
But she was wasn't she captured for 2 months and 3 weeks?
Yes. So, but I feel like we probably saw 3 weeks of their travels.
Yeah, good point.
So it did feel like
we all started,
we're all on the same
time.
And like, yeah, it would be super interesting to actually go back and see if they did, because no fucking idea.
I would, maybe that'll be my summer task. I'll use tabbies, do a nice like timeline on Canva, and like just like plot it out.
Yeah.
Unless someone already did it.
It's possible. Maybe we should check that first. I guess all to say, it did fuck with my brain, and I was very confused.
People have done it. It's been done. Yep. It's been done. So
that's not surprising. We're not a nerdy group.
Yeah, and we are
so
late to the game. I feel like people probably did this the first week it was out.
Oh, probably.
There's some nice ones too. Some people did actually like very nicely do it on like Canva or some sort of like infographic software. Yeah.
Fun.
Anyway,
send me one.
It'd be nice to like read it. Anyway, it's fine.
Yeah. It did just very much confuse me in this book. And I am very set in the ways that I think in certain ways. So, like, when I read that, like, the big end part that the timelines didn't match up and then Aelin, whatever, I was like, so the author lied to us. Like, I was pissed for a bit because I was like, this isn't right. She's not supposed to lie to us about this. She lied about the times. And I was very, like, righteously indignant. So stupid. But.
Oh. Wait. Sorry. I was just looking at this timeline that I found. And it's actually only Aelin's timeline.
Oh.
So I don't know if there's one of everybody.
Yeah.
Anyway, besides the point. Sorry. Continue.
Yeah. No. That's basically it. Just...
You want your brain to... You want it to make sense with your brain.
Yeah. And I just felt like it was a lie by the author. Which is just so dramatic.
You lied to me.
That's how I felt. So, fun times.
Yeah, it didn't... I will say, like, it didn't bother me that much. It was sort of a mind fuck, but, like, not to that extent. Like, but, to be fair...
Yeah.
You pay attention to certain details a little bit more than I do.
Yeah, well, we pay attention to different things in books. Like, I guess that's how everybody reads. Yes. They, like, get different things out of them. But, yeah, that is definitely a thing that I was like, huh? And realistically, she put out Empire of Storms, and then she put out Tower of Dawn. So I should have had a inkling that something was going to be fucked up with the timelines, because those two books, same time, published different times. So, anyway, I guess... We'll kind of get into
Might
it now.
Might as well.
So yeah, just a heads up. It's not a spoiler-free zone, and things will not at all get saucy because... But we do get the moment that everyone hates, and I just found funny.
Yeah. This, I will say, like, as a series, this is not a... It's not saucy.
Spicy.
It's not spicy at all. There are a couple of spicy moments in Empire of Storms. But if you're looking for some chili peppers, this ain't it.
No. There are more chili peppers out there.
Actually, you know what's funny? So, there is a parent that I know, and she recommends books to me all the time. I recommend books to her sometimes. And she tells me, like, she saw that I have a tattoo for ACOTAR, and I told her how much I really loved the book, and she actually said, I tried to get into it, but I really couldn't. I think she said she read book 1 and 2, but stopped after Akamath, and just couldn't. She said she doesn't like Feyre as a character. And, like, I can understand that. I absolutely understand that. I can see why people don't like Feyre as a character. However, so last time I saw her, she actually had Throne of Glass with her and was loving it and found it completely different and, like, was really into it because she was like, Aelin's just a badass bitch. And I'm like, you're not wrong.
From your lips to God's ears.
Anyway, it was just funny how she could have such wildly different opinions over the same writer because I love SJM. So, like, I just love everything she does. And it's just interesting seeing how other people react to other pieces by the same author. It has nothing to do with our conversation. Definitely. I just wanted to put it out there.
No. Yeah. Well, because, like, I read this series first. So then when I got into ACOTAR, the spice was just a bonus. Yeah. Like, I wasn't necessarily expecting it. But if you read ACOTAR first, especially Silver Flames, and then you try to read this, you're going to be like, this is not the same, you know?
Bullshit.
Where's the blowjob under the table? Like, so yeah, it is very different. I 100% see that.
Anyway, but yeah, so it was just... I just found it interesting. I do think I read Throne of Glass first. and maybe even
Crown of Midnight.
And then I was like, I need more by her, and then I found the other series, ACOTAR. So ACOTAR was out, and I think ACOMAF was coming out in the next week. That's when I started reading, I think, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah, well, because we read Throne of Glass when it was just one book.
No, there was 2 out. Pretty sure.
Was there? Because I thought that I finished it, and maybe it's just because I only had the first one, but I read Throne of Glass and I finished it, and I was like, what a great standalone book.
Yes, me too.
Yeah.
But then I think I, looked it up, and I saw that there was a second one. I was like, oh, there's a second one? I think.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Maybe.
I remember reading it on a plane. No idea where I was going. This was, a million years ago. So, August of 2016, you told me to read the book. Yeah, so you sent me an email telling me I had to read the book.
Oh. Of Throne of Glass, the book.
The OG book. So that was August of 2016.
Okay. So
when did they... Are you looking up when they came out?
Throne of Glass came out in 2012. Crown of Midnight 2013. Airfire 2014. And then ACOTAR came out in 2015. So all 3 of them must have been out.
Yeah.
And I must have read them and been like, I need more.
Yes.
So we must have discovered it 10 years ago, 2015.
That makes sense.
And I remember, because Throne of Glass, it was on the bargain book table. I know.
That's so funny.
Anyway.
Love it.
Anyway, I guess we should actually...
Yes. So, this is week 7. And we're doing chapters 75 to 90. I can't believe
we still have 2 more weeks, and we're on chapter 90. You know what I mean? There are so many fucking chapters.
Yeah. 121. Insanity. We'll talk about that maybe next week, too. So, we left off all of our characters. A chunk of them are together. So, that is Kale... It was so helpful. So it's Kale, Aelin, the Coggin, Aelin, Irene, Nezrin, whatever, all of them. The Coggin's army, not actually the Coggin. Would be funny, though. So they are all walking towards the Firian Gap with the Wildmen. And they're like, it's empty. And they're like, what the fuck does that mean? Where is everyone that was there? We'll find out this week on this podcast. Then Dorian is in an alliance with Maeve to find the key, and then he's gonna marry her.
At Morath.
And he's at Morath, and we're like, what the fuck is going on? He's gonna marry her? What
a dum-dum.
Yeah, 100%. So then Aedion and crew were saved by Ralph and fled to Orinth.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much, in a very quick nutshell,
yeah,
where everyone is. So we start with Aedion's point of view, and we're in Orinth, and he's thinking that it's well stocked for a siege, and he grudgingly thanks the lords for setting
and also
up.
Allowing him back in, because he sort of abandoned them and their army. Like, peace out, we're gonna do my idea, only for his idea to be shit.
Yeah.
And now he's back with his tail between his legs, and they accepted him in. I don't have to like them, but at least they did let him back in.
Yeah. He still doesn't have the sword, and he's still not technically the general, but he is the one that everyone is listening to, so you're like, he's basically the general. So we get, I guess Aedion's just thinking about how he and Ren used to be friends before Ren's father kind of started to push him to like vie for the blood oath against Aedion, and then they had a rivalry. So like they were friends for a very little while growing up, and then they just hated each other basically mostly because of Ren's father pushing him.
Well, I think Aedion said that like it was sort of well known that Aedion was sort of favored to take it, even though Ren was also entitled to it, and there was going to have to be a choice.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is kind of, I guess, a bit of a callback to last week. We had a moment with Gavriel and Kale talking that I was just like, fuck off, Kale. Like I mostly am when I'm in Kale's point of view. But
yeah, well, he
Kale
made
was
some
talking to Gavriel
about being able to like tell Aedion to like forgive his father, and it's like you have nothing, like you are not close to him, you have no say over what he does. Like it's just infuriating that he thinks he can tell this guy what to do.
Well, and it's also like, yes, I get that Gavriel feels bad, but that doesn't take back the trauma and the life without a father that Aedion went through. Like, it's not necessarily Gavriel's fault, per se. Like, there are some things that are, like, if he wasn't connected to Maeve, maybe Aedion's mother would have gone and tried to be healed by Faye when she was dying. So, like, there are a few things I get why he's pissed. But, like, growing up without a father for that long, like, you can't just be like, oh, get over it. Like, it's his life. Anyway, but now I think we're just laying breadcrumbs of like Aedion is starting to potentially change his mind ish about Gavriel, because he wonders if Gavriel was in his life when he was younger, how he would have felt about him and Ren like being super competitive and shitty towards each other. And he thinks that Gavriel would have been able to calm them somehow. And he wonders how he would have turned out if like he had his dad in his life, which I'm sure is like a super common thing for people.
Yeah.
Ren is there. That's why he's thinking about it. But Ren says he's going to go get the archers ready and make sure that people know how to use the like oil from the lances. And Aedion worries that they're just going to get blasted by witch towers. And Ren says that they need hellfire. And Aedion just like has a light bulb moment immediately and just stops. And he looks out and he's like, we need to talk to Rolf. And we're like, okay. So we don't know what's happening yet. Then we jump to, in the dark of the night, a small group sneaks out and Lysandra becomes a badger and just starts to dig. And the silent assassins and the Mycenians start laying a trap and then they bury it over. We're like, interesting.
They have a plan.
They do, which is good. We go to Lysandra's point of view now, and Morath arrives a day later. And they're all just kind of watching from like the top of the battlement. And Evangeline is with Lysandra, and Ansel is counting the lines as they break the horizon. And she gets to 30,000, and Rolf is just like, we can all count. And she's just like, can you really? And I'm just like, they should kiss. Her and Rolf should kiss. Because of the banter in this moment. Just kiss.
Yeah.
And you know what? It's my headcanon that they're banging. So even if they don't end up together, I'm going to have that headcanon that...
In my brain, Ansel is just sex with Rolf and also sex with Silent Assassin Dude, and she's just going back and forth.
Ilya, or whatever. Yeah. Or a throuple.
Thruple.
I think Rolf would be okay with that. Anyway, I love it. So she keeps counting. She gets to 50,000, and then they see the witch towers. And Lysandra thinks like she doesn't know what form she's going to fight in, and nobody's told her what she should do. And like I guess most of the times they're like, this is how you should fight. Evangeline then says she didn't think it would be so terrible. And Lysandra says no harm will come to her, but Evangeline says she isn't afraid for herself, but she is afraid for her friends, which is just like so heartbreaking. Aedion says any minute now, and Lysandra looks to see the assassins in white against the snow with flaming arrows, and then Ren gives the order, and the arrows land on fuse lines, and like the traps go off and explode. 2 witch towers are destroyed, so there's only one left, and a wyvern that was pulling the last tower died, so that tower can't continue moving, so the army basically just stops. And then the assassins like rush back on horseback, and Evangeline asks how long that'll stop the army, but they don't know, so nobody answers her. And Ansel says 100,000. So there's 100,000 men advancing on them.
Yeah. And, like, I find this part really hard to picture.
Oh.
Not the number. The number is fine. Like, the number 100,000, fine. Like, yeah. It's
giant.
My issue is, so, like, the witch towers are about in the middle, right? They're not at the front. Because they didn't see them at first. They just saw the people marching. Yeah. Right? So, in my brain, I'm thinking, okay, where were the people stationed so that they were not in the midst of the army so that they could run back to the keep to be back to safety or whatever? And, like, how did all those people march over the dug holes until the witch towers got to them? And how did they set them off while still being far enough away from the rest of the army? That's what I find it difficult to picture.
Yeah, it doesn't really explain it well. They do say there's a fuse, but I'm like, is that fuse 5 feet or like 5,000 feet?
Yeah.
Like, also, how would it not accidentally go out? So yeah, I also find that a bit confusing. But it must be a long fuse, I guess, is the only thing that makes sense. Because 50,000, half of the army shows up, and then the witch towers. So half of the army is marching over to get the towers in the place they wanted.
So they need to be so far away so that they aren't being killed by the army.
Yeah. And we do get a little later this week that 2 of the silent assassins were killed by arrows while they were retreating. But it is fucking confusing. But on that note, we just pop over to Dorian's point of view. And last week, Maeve told Erewhon that she could show him his brothers. And Dorian just asks if it's possible to show a different world. And she says, yes, with witch mirrors. And she says that, like, he saw one when Aelin and Manon went into it at the end of Empire of Storms. And she's actually the one that taught the witches how to use the witch mirrors, which is just an interesting tidbit. And I'm like, what the fuck? But it's also how she's been able to spy from so far away. So, like, she's used witch mirrors to talk to her spiders and, like, probably other people. I'm sure she has other spies. But she tells him that she's going to show Erewhon what he wants to see. And Dorian realizes that it's actually going to be an illusion. And she's like, yeah, I know my husband. Like, I can...
I wonder,
show
like,
him
how long they were together, because she's, like, seemingly immortal. So, like, I wonder how long they were actually married.
Yeah. I don't know. Because then you just get into, like, in this other world, in the Valg world, does time work the same?
I don't know. That's the thing. Like, are they only immortal in this world?
Yeah. Yeah. There's so much... So much confusion. And so Maeve basically says she's going to do sleight of hand and Dorian's going to enter the tower. And he's like, I've been trying to figure out how to get into Erewhon's tower. Like, how am I just magically going to do it now? And she says that she'll portal him in. And you're like, smart. And he asks why she doesn't portal herself to Terrassen. and like why she didn't do that ages ago when she wanted to meet like Aelin and stuff. But she says that Brennan has wards that won't allow her to.
How
like,
convenient.
Convenient storytelling. Yep. So Dorian says that Erewhon definitely has wards too, but she says that she's slowly been unraveling them the whole time she was here. Like, smart. And he asks why she wouldn't do this before now, but she says that he hadn't pushed her till now, and asking her like to give up her spiders as foot soldiers, like that pushed her too far, that she's like, I need to do something. And he basically says that like he realizes, I guess, that she cares about the spiders, and she says, or she implies that she does. And he's like, but you offered up 6 of them. And she says that she'll remember them for the rest of her life. Which is like, yeah. It's another moment of like...
Maeve's not all bad.
Maeve is bad.
She's not all bad.
She's bad, but also...
She's got feelings.
She is. She has feelings. So yeah. She also says that like they went willingly to help her, and she also says that not all valg are evil, because technically the spiders are also valg. They came over from when she came over. So it is interesting that like a valg can infest a valg as well, because the spiders are valg creatures and they now have valg princesses in them. So like,
it's getting too meta for me.
it is a bit confusing.
It's like, what was that movie? It's Inception. It's like a dream within a dream within a dream within a dream. Oh my god, it's so...
100%.
That's how I feel.
Yeah, that's what it's doing. But yeah, so she says not all valg are evil, and Dorian is like, but Erewhon is, and Maeve agrees, and says so are his brothers, and that they rule through pain. So Dorian's just like, well, if we're going to sneak into the tower and get the key, we need to get the fuck out of here immediately after. And she agrees and says that they'll go wherever he hid the other keys, and then they'll do it at nightfall, and then they'll just get out. So they plan their escape routes, and then Dorian shifts into Erewhon and portals in to his tower, and he's just like, it's just a bedroom. Like, it's just like super plain, and he's like, huh. So he starts like looking through drawers and the armoire and stuff, and he's like, no luck, but he feels the key, and then he looks over and he notices that there's a woman lying in the bed.
This is the part I don't understand. Like,
I know.
How do you portal into a room and not notice a person in the bed? You're like, oh, this is just a normal bedroom apart from the human woman in the bed.
Yeah. Also, he has magic. Shouldn't he be feeling shit? Shouldn't he feel her heartbeat? Yeah, it is something. Yeah. So he's like, oh shit, there's a woman. And she's wearing a collar, and he feels that the key is in her arm with, I guess, his magic, and he thinks like it's the same as with Kaltain. So he walks over and pretends to be Erewhon and tells her to hold out her arm, and he can tell that the wound is bad, like it's gross, basically. And he's like, this is what Kaltain's must have looked like, because she's in the afterworld now and she still has a scar because it was such a like festering wound. So he tells her to lie down, and he actually uses some of his healing magic to like numb her arm while he cuts it out to like kind of try to, I guess, heal her, one would assume.
To try
and he cuts
and give her a little bit of like peace, not peace, but like
not pain.
Yeah. Not pain.
Yeah. Yes. And then he cuts the word key out, and she grabs his arm and he puts a hand on his sword because he's like, oh shit. But then she asks him to kill her. And she says that he pushed it back. And he realizes that, and I don't know why he jumps to this conclusion. I would have been like, I took the key out and she pushed the valg back. But he's like, the healing magic must have done something to push the valg back. And I'm like, why would you think that apropos of nothing? Like, wouldn't you think you took the key out and that's the reason? But he's like, oh, it's the healing magic. And I'm like, you're right. But I don't think that would be what you jump to.
Well,
but he does.
I mean, leaps and bounds.
Oh, yeah, that's true. She starts to get frantic, asking him to kill her. And, like, he's holding his sword, so he knows that this is truly what she wants. Obviously. And he says that he can't. And he knows he doesn't have time to get her collar off. And he has to go. And he knows he can't take her. And he wonders if it would be a mercy to kill her. And I'm like, of fucking course it would be a mercy to kill her. If you leave her here without the key, everyone's gonna kill her. Slowly and painfully.
Okay. Have we figured out, like, I feel like we've had this discussion before, but we've decided that if you kill the vessel, you also kill the valg, correct? This is not a demon in the body situation like Supernatural.
I know. I think about this often. I think it has to be like a beheading or a firing. Like, it is still like, I don't think like...
But is there not a valg in this person? And they don't
there is, yeah.
behead her or catch her on fire?
No. I don't know. I feel like you would heal from like a stabbing or a gunshot wound, but if it's something that is immediately fatal, maybe
I guess
it would kill them. I don't know. I don't, and maybe she doesn't die. maybe it is like a demon situation. I don't know. But Dorian thinks like Manon would kill her 100%, and KoA would take her with him, even though that's an impossibility too. But he's struggling with who he wants to be as a king. And I'm like, this is not the time. This girl is literally like weeping and asking to be killed. And she's like getting frantic. And then there's just a snap and in her neck snaps, breaks. And he turns and sees Maeve, and she says it's an early wedding gift to save him from the decision because she sees that he's struggling. And she smiles, and he starts to rally his power, and she says, well done, and then pounces on his mind. And we're like, oh shit. So he's...
Sorry, this whole part with Dorian annoys me. Because it's just so fucking convenient.
Yeah, it really is.
Anyway, continue, and then I'll pipe up when you get to a grievance.
Okay. So he's in Erewhon's room, but he's not. And Maeve asks for the key, and he reaches for it. And she says they're going to go get the others. And he follows her. And she says she has so much planned for them with the keys, and she can keep him young with the power. And his power will keep them safe because, like, he has all the different powers rolled into one. So they go through the portal to Maeve's room, and Maeve says, quickly, the wyvern is waiting. And he stops, and he just says, don't you think it's rude to leave without a note? And she turns, because it's implied in this section that she's taken over his mind, and she's just telling him what to do, and he's just doing it. But then he attacks the clause in his mind that she has with fire, and he thinks it's a trap within a trap, and he's actually has her trapped now. And you're like, okay. So he basically explains to the reader, because he's thinking about it, I guess, that he shifted his mind to show her what she wanted to see and what she believed he was
he
like.
Figured out even though it took him weeks, I'm gonna say, to figure out how to shift his body, he learned how to shift his mind as well.
Yeah.
Because you can do that. And he thought to be able to do that.
Yeah. And, like, I forget the word for it in ACOTAR, but it takes a while to learn how to do all of that, too. Like, get into someone's brain and figure out all of this stuff. Like, but he also just figures that out because he studies a kernel of Maeve's magic when she pokes and prods at his brain. You're like, what? So, yeah. He figured out Demonti or something? Is that the word? D word.
What? The D word.
So, whatever word that is that we're trying to think of, he's learned how to use magic by studying her magic and knows how to, like,
which is,
get into people's brains down.
So, this is realistically, this is the part that bothered me the most. Because he explains in this bit that when they first met and she grabbed a hold of his mind and he kicked her out viciously or whatever, and then the next time I think she tried once more to get into his mind and he was like, nope. Apparently, he took that time to study her magic, to pick out the little kernel and to study it the same way he did with Celine's magic or Serene's magic or whatever the spider's name is.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, there's no way you can do that in literally like a millisecond. There's no way.
Yeah.
Brains don't work that fast. So, like, it just bothers me that he, like, oh, yes, I did that while she had her claws in my brain. And I'm like, no, you didn't. And there's no way he thought about that and then decided to do it in that frame of time. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm really heated.
No. I completely agree. But then the most annoying part for me, too, is like, and I get it. That's how things are written. But I fucking hate it. But we're in his point of view, and he's hiding shit from us.
Yeah.
Because, like, he didn't tell us when she attacked his brain. He wasn't like, and now I'm dissecting her brain. Like, he's just like, she attacks me, And I'm like, if you're... why are you hiding things from us? I liked it in Queen of Shadows. I like it when Aelin does it, and I will not apologize. So, yeah, I don't know. I was just like, I get it, but I don't like when characters hide things from you in a book, because I also feel like that's lying. Anyway. So, he now just completely controls her. So, he stops her from being able to talk. I'm like, what? This is Maeve. You're a child. You are a child, and this is Maeve. And we're reducing her to this by a fuckboy. Are you kidding me right now? She's a badass. She's a motherfucker.
Yeah.
And this fuckboy, Prince,
like,
who learned he had magic way less than a year ago.
Tricked this millennia old cunning queen.
Yeah. I hate it. And I get it. It's because when you read it, you're supposed to be like, oh shit, Dorian's fucked. But I don't know. I think that shouldn't he have just had a good enough shield on his brain that, like, she couldn't get in? Like, and I get the point is he's saying he let the shield down so that he could trap her, but I'm like, or just leave. I don't know. I think it's just so shitty.
I would just like it to be a bit more believable.
Yeah.
I would like this magic world with fae and demons to be a little bit more realistic, please. Now, I will say that maybe those who are, like, Dorian fanboys, maybe they, like, love this bit. I could take or leave Dorian, to be honest. There are people that are, like, obsessed with him. I'm like, yeah, he's okay, but, like, he doesn't do it for me.
I just don't have strong feelings
that's what I mean.
way.
Like, I don't dislike him.
Yeah.
I'd take him over Kale. I feel like pretty sure I'd even... No, I wouldn't. That's a lie. I was thinking, like, would I take Erewhon over Kale? But no.
Oh. I thought you were going to say Maeve.
I would absolutely take Maeve over Kale. 100%. But I was thinking 100%. Erewhon, because I was, like, cycling through the characters in the book. I'm like, is there anybody that I would not take over Kale?
I would not take Vernon.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. But how bad is it that I was thinking Erewhon? Vernon? Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Parrington.
Oh.
Who?
Oh. Aedion or Kale.
Oh, that's bad.
It's gotta be Aedion,
do you know what?
Right? Like, it's bad, but...
I actually might take reformed Kale over douchebag Aedion.
Yeah.
Because Kale has sort of
it's like, I would take
the error of his ways, and he's learned, and it's why people love him, and I'm still like, no, he's still a dick. However...
I'm rolling my head because my eye rolls weren't big enough.
However, Aedion has been such a dick this book. And he doesn't get redeemed, and I hate... Not that he doesn't get redeemed. He doesn't get his comeuppance. He just... I hate it.
We'll get to that when we get to it.
I do think... Do we get to it this week? I feel like we do.
Yeah, some of it,
We'll talk about it, and I'll get in my feelings about that, too. I just have a lot of feelings, okay?
Which, you know what? Sign of a good book.
Agreed. Yeah. It's true.
So...
100% true.
You know, here we are. And the fact that so many people can read the book and get different things from it and like different people, I cannot imagine not liking Aelin. Like, you said that you can see how people don't like Feyre when they read the book, but like, people hate Aelin in this book, and I just cannot fathom it. Cannot. So, back to Dorian and Maeve. So he stops her from being able to speak. Just is able to. And says in her mind that he was a slave once, and he's not going to let it happen again. Okay. A few things. I understand that. Completely fair. But if we're saying that he's known magic for less than a year... A hot chunk of that time, he was also valg. So he wasn't learning how to use his magic then either. So it's been like 2 months. Not really 2, but it's a very short amount of time, and he's better at magic than Maeve now. What's Kale gonna think about that? Anyway.
Well, that's why he's there. To check him and make sure he doesn't get too powerful.
Yeah. I can't. So Maeve says, like, that he will free her, and her voice is vicious and cold and nothing like the woman that she, I guess, pretends to be. And he asks how she thought that he would fall for this after she tortured his friend. Because, like, yeah, that's fair. That's what everybody reading the book was thinking when they were like, how could Dorian agree to this deal when Maeve tortured Aelin? And he's kind of reassuring the reader that he actually is a good guy, and he does love Aelin as a ally and friend. So, like, you know. She says that she's going to kill him, and he says not if he does first. And he puts fire around her throat. And she asks him if he's really going to kill a helpless female, which, like... God, I love Maeve.
Yeah, it's great.
I love her. I just can't. Like, best kind. 10 out of 10.
10 out of 10.
Yeah, big fan.
Would try again.
Yeah. And he obviously says, like, she isn't helpless. And he would put her in an iron box till the end of time if he could. And she asks if this is the king he wishes to be. And he says the king he wishes to be is the opposite of her. And he says there's only one witch who will be his queen. And I'm like, yes, I do agree with that.
Yeah,
Manon.
snaps for Manon. Although I'm still questioning their whole relationship dynamic and how it's going to work long distance.
Yeah.
And like, what if they decide to have babies? Who's going to keep the kids?
Well, if it's a boy, Dorian's going to keep it. And if it's a girl, Manon's going to keep it. And it's going to be a girl, so Manon's going to keep it.
So who's going to be Dorian's heir? Like, what if he decides he needs an heir and then he has to go elsewhere for the heir?
Well, that's the thing, too. Well, I guess they're going to have a boy and a girl.
Twinsies, but then the twins won't grow up together.
No. They'll only see each other. Yeah. When they're allowed to not be rulers on the weekends. They'll meet halfway.
We're devolving.
Yes, just in general.
Yeah.
So, anyway. What? This is... Okay. So, there's just a loud crack, and everything starts to shake. And Dorian's just like, here's my second revelation that I didn't let the reader in on while I was doing all of my point of views recently. He tells her that he spent all the times that he was looking for the word key to, like, fuck up Morath. And right now, it's basically just holding on and balanced on his magic. And it's going to start to crumble.
Never noticed.
Not even a little bit. And also, Maeve taking away his wards didn't notice. You're like, what are you doing?
What do you do all day?
You're a shitty villain. You're a shitty villain. All you care about is your brothers and just being bad. Like, what is going on?
Yeah.
So, Morath starts to crumble, and he pulls out of Maeve's head, and he turns into a crow, and then he tells her, mind to mind, obviously, because he's a crow,
Can you imagine
to tell Arrow. And she doesn't know what he's saying.
That's not what I was literally thinking of a human voice coming out of a crow. I like yours better.
She just doesn't know what he said. But he tells Maeve to tell Erewhon that he did it for Aderlin. And I'm like, Erewhon doesn't even know you're here. But he also thinks that he did it for like all of his people and for Sorsha and Keltane. And you're like, that's nice. I'm glad you're becoming the king you want to be. They hear screaming, but Dorian's like, I used my magic to make sure that the paths that the humans use are going to be perfectly fine until the last one leaves the castle. And I'm like, I guess if you have magic that can do anything in the entire world, you can just do that. But like, okay, all the humans are going to be fine. Maeve begs him not to leave her like this because, like, she's currently unable to move or do anything. And she's like, Erewhon's gonna fuck me up, which is fair. And he thinks that he should kill her, but he can't, so he just flies away. He grabs the other two keys, and then he, like, lets go of her mind. But while he's in her mind, he, like, snips off her gift to World Walk.
Oh, no.
But I'm like, how does he know how to do that?
Also, can anybody do that?
Mm-hmm.
If so, why didn't Maeve do it to Aelin? Just snip, snip to the fire.
Yeah. But it's because his magic is raw magic and it could do anything. But it wasn't her magic that was world walking. Because she learned how to world walk through books in her husband's library. It was like, did he just make her forget?
I
what the fuck?
Her magic was different than her... Because I thought she learned how to... From the word marks. I thought she used word marks for the... Did she not?
Maybe, yeah. Maybe that's what she learned, the word marks. Yes. So I guess
we haven't thought this through.
She can still use word marks to portal, but she can't do what Fenris does. Of just like what's that called in ACOTAR?
Winnowing. Yeah.
She can't winnow anymore. That's what he cut off.
Yeah, but assuming. Also, can she still? Because remember she told Erewhon that she could like show him his brothers.
Yeah, the world. Yeah. Sorry.
I can show you the
This
world.
episode will be 5 hours because we just cannot be contained. Yeah, so I don't really understand what he got rid of. Because she can open portals with word marks. Aelin learned that last week or the week before.
Yeah, I'm so confused.
And she was going to teach Erewhon, so like, I guess maybe he took away her winnowing abilities. Because of course he did. But why didn't he, when he snipped off that little bit of winnowing, why didn't he fucking learn how to do it himself so he doesn't have to fly like he does for 2 days now?
Yeah.
So then he's just so... Oh, he's so petty. So he lets her go in his mind. And he says that he tells her to get some good shoes because now she has to walk everywhere.
I love it.
And he can hear her scream in his head. And you're like, what a petty, petty man.
Yeah, I really love it.
So, yeah. Oh, yeah. So he turns into a wyvern and he flies and he thinks that he can be a good king. He's gonna try. So we go over to Irene's point of view.
Sakes.
And they're in the... Yeah. Yeah, this was a lot. And they're in the Ferrying Gap and it's empty. And they're like, what the fuck is going on? But she's cleaning a soldier's infected wound. And Aelin is helping her. And she's just like asking about the magic. And like they talk a bit about illnesses and like how Irene sees them as being alive. And Irene says that like she uses her, I guess, I feel like, also, this is a tiny bit of a tangent, I feel like she didn't really see illnesses as being alive until after the valg and KoA. So I'm like, you're saying this is your whole philosophy right now, that like illnesses are alive and you like work on them, whatever. Like, I feel like that's not how you felt before Tower of Dawn.
We'll roll with it.
Yeah. So she uses her magic to like mend up the infection in him and like fix his leg up and he's fine. And she does cut out like dead shit from his leg too. So then Irene throws up because she's pregnant. And Aelid's like, oh no, do you need a healer? And she's like, no, this is just normal. And you're like, so I guess it's morning sickness. And she says that ginger and peppermint help and asks Aelin to make her some tea, which she does. And then Irene says that she can heal Aelid's leg. And Aelin is kind of surprised. And Irene asks to see it. And she uses her magic and she thinks like the wound is awful. It's so much cruelty from her uncle, and Irene is like pissed about it, which like
and I really love that this is where we're having this conversation
right next to the passed out guy.
Yes, but also right before.
Oh yeah. You weren't being sarcastic.
No,
I was genuinely serious.
It was, but also right next to the passed out guy.
Sorry, yeah, no, I get what you're saying. I didn't for a second. So she basically, Irene says that it, like, they can do 2 paths. And I guess it's like, it's kind of like getting a knee or a hip replacement. Like, you can either do that or you can, like, do physio. You can do cortisone. Like, anyway, so she says that the wound would take weeks of work. And obviously that would have to wait till after the war. But she would basically have to break and reconstruct her foot and ankle. And that whole process would take 3 weeks. And then it would take a month of healing, and she'd have to learn to walk again and all that shit.
She literally has the most powerful fae for friends. So, like, you know, we would have to, like, re-break it. You'd have to learn to walk again. Like, blah, blah, blah. And it'd be so painful. And it's like, no, bitch, just ask your friends to make it not painful for you. To take the pain away. And they would.
Also, she just knocked out this soldier so that she could cut out his wound, like, infected stuff and, like, whatever. So why wouldn't you knock out this poor girl who's gone through so much pain?
Yeah.
No, you gotta stay awake through this. No anesthesia and, like, for you.
She's like, oh, you gotta learn to walk again. But, like, Lorcan could easily brace her with his wind the way he has been until she can stand to put weight on it. Like, they're scaring her to be like, oh, this is gonna be bad if you choose to do it. When really, you're literally friends with some really powerful people. They would help you.
Exactly. And then she's just like, the other option is a salve, but, like, she's feeling her magic to feel what's going on, and she can feel, like, the bone-on-boneness of her ankle, which is arthritis. But she says the arthritis would keep getting worse. And Aelin says she doesn't know if she can face that kind of pain again. And Irene says that she would have to face a lot of pains. And she and her husband just went through a similar thing. And I'm like, is having the remnants of a valg inside of him and self-loathing and hatred the same as a girl who was tortured? And, like, how is her healing going to be as painful as Chaol's? And why are we doing this to her? Like, she doesn't have valg in her. Like, that's not what is in her ankle. Like, you could knock her out. You could reconstruct her ankle. Like, I just don't understand why they're like,
you have to,
the emotional pain is
trauma.
Really, I'm like, well, to be fair, she fucking does in a second. But I'm just like, why are we doing this to her? But of course we are. So Aelin is just like, well, if we live, we can talk about it. And you're like, yeah, that's a great idea. And then Borte shows up and tells Aelin to come right away because they found someone and they want her to decide what to do with him. And it's her uncle.
Of course it is. So, like, we literally were just reminded of how shitty her uncle was. And, like, oh my god, he's here. What a coincidence of all the people in the world.
Yeah, 100%. So we go to Aelid's point of view now, and Borte tells her that he tried to pretend to be a wyvern trainer, but somebody basically just sold him out. And Queen Aelin called for Aelid immediately. And Fenris and Gavriel take her to go see Vernon once she, like, flies up there. They reassure her that he's restrained, and she's kind of shaking because, like, this is her tormentor. And Aelin and Lorcan and Rowan are all there too. So Lorcan says she doesn't have to go in, and Aelin says that they brought her to decide what to do with him. And Aelid asks if they'll torture him. And then she asks why he's here, and they're like, we don't know. We just figured out it was him, and we sent for you. And then she asks if they will kill him. And Lorcan asks if she wants them to. And she says that she wants to speak to him before deciding. So Lorcan just opens the door and she goes in. And she immediately sees that, like, his nose is bleeding and there's blood on Lorcan's hand. And she's like, Lorcan punched him in the face. Good. So Lorcan and Aelin stay while she talks to Vernon. And Vernon says what company she keeps now. And he's, like, super just shitty. But Aelid asks, like, why he's here. And he asks Aelin if she let the brute at him, like, on purpose, and then put the sweet-faced girl in front of him. You're like, he's just so shitty.
Just, like, massive eye rolls.
And Aelid, this is a scene that I don't get this part. in a way. But Aelin sees that Aelin is looking at Vernon, who is restrained, and thinks that that was just her not too long ago. And she can see that Aelin is, like, fidgety and not okay. I'm like, I just don't think it's Aelin's place.
To wonder if Aelin is okay?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just like anyone can wonder it, sure.
Can I be honest? I never really thought about it as I was reading, but now that you're bringing it up, I feel like they're probably doing that and making us as the reader aware that Aelin is not okay, to sort of demonstrate how not like the bad guy she is. You know what I mean? It's showing that she is doing it for the sake of her kingdom of, like, yeah, okay, they're gonna torture this guy and he's gonna die. But they're showing that she's uncomfortable with it to show that she's not, like, a killer the way that Vernon is a killer. She's not heartless the way they are heartless. But, like I feel like... So I like to say that when you read Throne of Glass, you never, ever in your wildest dreams would think that this is where this book ends up. Both with, like, her being a queen and running a kingdom, her being tortured, and, like, all this stuff. But I also feel like she's very far removed from her persona as an assassin. You know what I mean? Like, yes, I know that was her life for a long time, but also, we don't really know how many of her people, the assassinations that she did, like, were actually carried out. Because we saw in Crown of Midnight that she wasn't actually killing good people.
Yeah, I think that's just because of the king. Like, I think for Arobynn, she killed everybody. I don't think she... I do.
Okay.
I guess I could think about it a little longer than those 2 seconds. It's a possibility, but yeah. I feel like she probably did. I feel like I think the issue I have is I understand. I also don't really like what she does in the next scene, and I struggle with that too.
Yeah.
But she's trying to figure out how to rule her kingdom as well. It's very parallel to Dorian trying to figure out his as well. And I feel like she's maybe trying to swing back from the torture killing bullshit. Because, like, maybe she had swung too far in the opposite direction. Sure. And, like, the thing about her assassinations, too, is the last assassination she did before she went to Endovier actually fucked over politically her side, because in Assassin's Blade she killed the guy and that allowed slave routes to kind of be opened because he was actually against it and she was led to believe he wasn't. So, like, she fucked up by killing the last like, as a actual assassin. So, like, maybe she is now on shore, and that's another reason I think that, like, she probably stopped killing people in Crown of Midnight, especially, like, the king is asking her to do it. They're probably great people. But also because she had been killing people and then the one that got her sent away was, like, she was tricked into it. So, yeah. Anyway. I feel like maybe we could have, like, dropped in a short thing from Rowan to be like, she's struggling or something like that. I don't know. I just feel like Rowan feeling it out would have made more sense to me than a lead being like, I don't know.
But, like,
I feel like she has such a good poker face. I don't know.
I wonder, like, could it be just to show that, like, her and Aelin sort of were childhood friends, grew up together? Is it trying to demonstrate that Aelin knows her too? That, like, she has other people with her that know her?
Yeah, I guess I don't get that. I don't get that Aelin knows her. I don't think that they've developed that enough, because in childhood they were like, she's afraid.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think, too, it's also trying to tell us that, like, last week, or actually a few weeks ago, whenever they were in Aniel, she used her magic, and it was like, she's now completely fine, no trauma.
Yeah.
I feel like this is trying to be like, no, she's not completely fine. There is still some trauma. Which is fair. There should probably still be some trauma.
Yes. But, like, we talked about that before, that, like, I had a big problem with that whole, like, she used her fire and used up that well, and all of a sudden, oh, she's fine. And, like, she's not. Like, there's no way she could go from being tortured for 2 months to using her magic and is now okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So anyway, that was a bit of another detour.
We have so many.
We do. Aelin tells Vernon that his breaths are limited, and he calls her ruthless and says that the witch blood runs true. And he's, like, smiling at her, and she just can't stand him. And he killed her father, and he ruined her ankle. And then she thinks, like, he touched and maybe more, like, actually raped Kaltain. And he sold Aelid's body to Erewhon to be bred. And she asks why. Like, why did he do any of it? And he says because his breaths are limited, he'll tell her that it's because he could. And you're just like, he's evil for evil's sake. But he... And I don't completely disagree with this next sentence, because he says the only reason his brother could rule was the order of their birth. And I'm like, yeah, that's pretty fucked up. Like, this whole, like, firstborn thing, I get it. And he also says that her father was an insufferable brute. And then he looks at Lorcan and says that her mother's preferences pass to her because Aelin is now in love with an insufferable brute. And I'm like, ick. And then he says that her mother was a rare beauty. And too bad she sacrificed herself for Aelin, which is, like, Aelin's deepest, darkest shame that has ever...
Ugh.
Yeah, but, like, he's a terrible guy. So Aelin stops him from talking and says, like, obviously he was jealous of her father, and she doesn't care why he's done any of it, or why he's here, or what anyone's gonna do to him. And she says, I will never think of you again, and your name will be forgotten from this world. He tells her that she can't erase him from Peranth because it's already been taken by Erewhon.
Can I just say that when he said, you know, when this is over, I will never think of you again, or whatever, totally brought me back to Ever After, a Cinderella story with Drew Barrymore in it. And she says the same thing to her evil stepmother.
Oh, yeah.
She's like, I want you to know that after this moment, I will forget you and never think of you again. So, references.
I love it. So, yeah. Aelin basically is like, well, it'll be easy to erase you from the rubble. And she turns to leave, and he says, that's it. And she asks what else she needs from him. And he says she doesn't know how to play the game. And she says there's nothing she wants to hear, but they still have questions. And he's like, are you really going to leave him here defenseless? And she says she was defenseless when he imprisoned her, basically. She was a fucking child. And he is a grown man, so maybe he will survive too. And she thinks to herself, like, Aneth hasn't spoken to her at all. And I'm like, what would Aneth do to help you here? I don't really get why that's
well, maybe
brought up,
to give her direction, like, to give her, like, is this right or wrong sort of a advice?
So Aelin's point of view now, and she follows Aelin out, and Aelin says that she doesn't care what they do to him. And Lorcan asks if she wants him to live, and she says no, but make make it quick because that's what her father would want.
It's her one request.
I know.
Her one request of her last living relative to make his death quick because it's what her dad would have wanted. Yeah. I'm just pointing that out. I'm just stating it for the record in 1 minute.
It's true. But also, it's just like, I feel like her being like, it's what my dad would want is why it's okay to just be like, yeah, but what do you want? But also, yes, it's her only request.
Her one request.
And Aelin's like, yes, cool, I'll do that.
Yes. If that's what you want.
Yeah. But also, so Aelin's immediate thought after that is of Kaltain telling her to punish them all. And I'm like,
so we're going
to
to request. We're going to
honor. Quick.
We're going to honor. We have to honor somebody's request. Who are we going to pick?
Well, true. Yeah.
Kaltain, your enemy until she was tortured into a rage, or a member of your court?
Yeah.
Who we gonna pick?
Balance. So, Rowan says they need to question him first, and Aelid's like, yeah, cool, sounds good. And Rowan asks if it should be painless, but Aelid's just like, that's up to you, I don't care.
Yeah.
And you're like, well...
But I mean,
they're gonna take some liberties here.
Can I just say that how are they supposed to question him without pain?
I guess the way she actually fucking ends up doing it. But no, not at you. It's just...
No, I know.
Yeah. I just can't. We'll get there. So Aelin reaches for her water magic then to just like cool herself because she was so rattled from seeing the restraints.
Yes. From she's not healed.
Yes.
Trauma still there.
There's still some trauma. And Aelin stops Lorcan from going in and says torture isn't going to get anything out of him.
What?
He likes to play games.
Says who?
Right? You don't think Lorcan, Salvatore, can torture him. Do we not think he can?
I mean, I'm pretty sure any one of them. He does not seem like one that would withstand. He's too used to like luxuries and fineries.
Yeah. And like she says, he plays games. He doesn't torture people. He doesn't withstand torture. Torture would actually be the best thing to do.
Yeah. I think cut off one finger, he'd be gonzo. He'd be ready to tell you everything.
He'll be singing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Aelin basically is just like, Lorcan, you can't come because you're going to be too vicious. And he's like, don't underestimate breaking bones. But Rowan's just like, no. And this is where I have an issue with this because Rowan's like, whatever Aelin wants, like, we get to decide what kind of court we are. Like, what kind of kingdom.
And I'm like, cool. I like, kind of like.
100%. But then, instead of torturing him, they, like, ends up happening? Yes. I'm like, that's what we want to be. That's the court we want to be. I'm like... Anyway, but I like the idea of this. I just think the follow
execution was a little something left to be desired.
Yes. So, Aelin's just like, basically, we'll do it my way first, and then Lorcan can kill him. But she says she needs some ale. So she gets a beer, and she sits down with Vernon. And only Gavriel and Fenris come into the room with her on Aelin's request. And he looks at the ale and she's like, it's not poisonous. It wouldn't make any sense. And he's like, do you think this is really going to work? And it's like...
Yeah, this like good cop routine, yeah.
Yeah. But he doesn't even delay in telling her shit. Like, it's just so stupid.
Yeah, no. He holds nothing back. Like, who needs torture? Just ask him the fucking question.
Yeah. But she says it's better than the alternative, and he says the ending's the same. And she says, tell me something interesting, and it may change. And he says then, if he knew... So he says if he knew that she would grow into a queen, he may not have knelt for Aelin, and she's so different than her parents. And I'm like, this isn't getting you in her good books. I hope you know that. And she says he tried and failed to gain power, and they found him here, so Erewhon's favor must have changed. And she says that she thinks he was cast aside. And then she asks him for something interesting, and he asks her to swear on her throne not to kill him. And I'm like, that's quite the...
It's quite the promise.
Yeah.
But, like, I also... there's a lot of gray area there.
So
because there's a lot of gray area. Because, like, he could totally... she says, oh, yeah, I promise not to kill you. She literally has a cadre of people that could do it.
Yeah.
Like, her saying, I promise not to kill you, means literally nothing.
100%. It is wild. But she just agrees, basically. She swears not to kill him, and then she's like, none of my people will. She does say that. And it's like, why would you say that? You could have easily just been like, Lorcan will do it. I'll just swear that I won't. But she doesn't. She says that none of them will. And he tells her that Maeve came to Morath to unite with Erewhon. And she asks if Maeve brought her armies. And he says, not that he saw. But Erewhon actually sent him off for asking too many questions. And you're just like, this is Dorian. It's because Dorian asked too many questions as Vernon. And that's why he was sent away. And it's just... Yes. I love it. He kind of assumes that Maeve's army is waiting on the coast, but he obviously doesn't know for sure. And he says that Maeve has some kind of influence over Erewhon that he doesn't understand. So she asks him then where the word key is. And he says he doesn't know what that is. So she says Kaltain had like a black sliver in her arm. Was there another one? And he says he doesn't know if Erewhon had another one. But he says he wonders what would happen if they put one of those into Aelin's arm, because she also has the fire magic. And he's like, that would definitely be something if that happened.
I would.
So, yeah. So she asks where the witches are gone. And he's like, they're gone to Terrassen. And it's like, obviously. But Aelin knows here that their group are 2 weeks away from Terrassen. And like in the next scene, the witches are in Terrassen. So it's like timelines are wild. But they left, I think it was just like a few days ago. So she stands up and he's like, wait, don't you want to know if Erewhon has any weaknesses or surprises? And she's like, nope, I've got everything I need. And Gavriel goes over and tightens his chains. And he's like, you promised, what are you doing? You got to let me go. And she's like, that's not the deal. She says she promises that none of them would touch him. It's not her fault if he can't get out of the chains. And then she says, which I kind of love I love that she's using like the Fae trickery and she's saying that kind of stuff. But I'm also like, weren't you just saying about the court that you want to have? But okay. But
this is the court they want to be.
She says, she says that he locked up her friend for years, so it's his turn. And Aelin lasted 10 years, and he might last like 3 days because nobody's around to feed him. And she gives the key to Aelin, which I kind of like, looking back on it after reading it the first time and being like, yeah, it's kind of shitty. Because now Aelin feels responsible for this.
Yeah.
But
yeah, it's not my favorite.
Yeah. I just don't love that. They were like, we're going to be a different kind of court. And then they were like, Leave him to die. With no chance of not dying.
I mean, he's starving or he's being dehydrated to death. They're not killing him.
Yeah.
I guess.
But also, it's not quick. Like you were saying.
No, it is not.
And to be fair, Aelin does say, sorry, it won't be quick to a lead. And a lead is just like, we need to find a better way to seal the room. And I'm like, oh, damn. Like, okay, I thought someone would have an issue with this. Nope.
Don't cross a lead.
That's her witch blood.
Truth.
So, Rowan comforts Aelin later and says that, like, they'll face Maeve and Erewhon together. Because obviously she's fucking panicking that they have an alliance now. Completely fair. Mm-hmm. And she wonders if she was a fool to use all of her power to save the army and if she should have kept it for killing Maeve/Erewhon. And she says she doesn't know what to do. And he says they'll figure it out. They'll do it together. And she just thinks, oh, he also doesn't know what to do in this moment. And it's kind of like, I like the moment, but I'm also like sad for her because he always knows what to do.
Yeah.
Not that he's not right here, because like, just together, that's all. But anyway, so we go over to Aedion's point of view, and we get that 2 silent assassins died after the explosion, but Morath had to stop to regroup and try to figure out how to get their tower working again. Ren is there, and he says that there's no one left to come and aid them. And Aedion just says, like, this isn't going to be pretty. And Ren says it would have been an honor to serve in this court with Aedion. And Aedion agrees with him. And it's like kind of the like moment you need of their like bromance. But it is sweet. I like it. Because he was very antagonistic for a while and yeah.
Who, Ren? What?
Yeah.
What?
Like he was like very pissed at Aelin, especially when he found out. Yeah. But now he's like, oh, are you being sarcastic?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Dummy. I got it. I figured it out.
You
eventually.
got it.
It took me a second, but I got there. So, anyway, I guess Aedion leaves, and he finds Lysandra, who has some warm milk for Evangeline because she's struggling to sleep. So Aedion asks if he can talk to her. So they go to Evangeline's room, and he tells her before his first battle, he couldn't leave the privy, so she's braver than him already. And she's like, that's disgusting! But she laughs a little, which is like, nice. Mm-hmm. And she says that she did throw up, and he says, that's better than shitting your pants.
I mean,
which,
not
fair.
wrong.
Yeah. And I actually do like what he says next, which is not something that I can often say of Aedion. Mm-hmm. But he says that, well, he tells Evangeline that her fear means that she has something to fight for and something she cares about, and that the bastards out there have none of that. So it's just like, she has so much love in her life now that the worst thing she can imagine is losing it. And that just enforces that she loves people. And he tells her that he lost his family 10 years ago, and tomorrow he's going to fight for his new one. And he looks at Lysandra, and he wants to tell her that he wanted it to be her, but he's like, this is not the time. Fucking thankfully. Mm-hmm. So he leaves. Yep. And then we go over to Lysandra's point of view, and she can't stop thinking of Aedion's expression, and she knows he doesn't expect to win the war, and she thinks she should have gone after him. I'm like, no, never go after him. Ever.
No. He was a dick. Let him wallow in his dickness.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
Thank you.
So, The next morning, her and Evangeline are on the way to breakfast, and Darrow asks if he can talk to them. And I love it because Lysandra is just like, I'm done placating men that don't respect me. And she's just like, does not put a smile on for him or anything. And I'm like, yes.
Yes,
queen. I love it. Exactly. But he just looks at her and he's like, no, this won't take long. So they go into his study and he just shows them that, like, he has a few books up that the scholars took from Orinth, and he's like, I put them up because I was optimistic that, like, after the king died, that we could win. And it's another moment of trying to, like, humanize Darrow after Empire of Storms. But he also shows them the king's flame that he took when he left Orinth, I guess, the first time. And Lysandra knows about the king's flame because Aelin and Aedion told her all about them, but they bloomed across fields the day that Brennan stepped onto this continent. And the one that Darrow has is from his lover Orlin's reign, where it bloomed then too.
Mm-hmm. It's Aelin's uncle. Great uncle. Yeah. Great uncle or just uncle? I think it's great uncle, isn't it?
Je ne sais pas.
I don't think it's her dad's brother. Is it?
I thought it was, but I could never be sure of anything in my life.
I'm looking up the family tree.
I figured I just was gonna wait.
Well, this is not correct.
Is it the AI?
No. It just didn't have... Oh, okay, this one does. Okay, so Brandon Galathinius and Mala Firebringer got married. Well, had children. 2 children, one being Elena Galathinius, and then also an unknown sibling, apparently.
Yeah.
And this unknown sibling gave birth to 2 children, one of them being Orlin Galathinius.
Okay.
The other one being Ro Galathinius's parent. So yeah, it's
So
Aelin's great uncle.
Yes.
It's not her grandparent, it's her great uncle.
So her dad would have been next in line?
Yes. Her dad was a prince, right? He had the prince title. I'm pretty sure.
He must have, yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay.
Sorry, so we need to clear these things up sometimes.
Oh, we do, because sometimes they're fucking confusing. So Evangeline looks at the bloom and says, it's very beautiful, but it's very small. And Darrow agrees and says, so are you. And then he tells her that he needs someone with quick wit and quicker feet to run messages and fetch supplies. And he asks if she's trained. And she says she did, but she isn't as good as Aedion. And he just says that few are, which is just like so sweet of her. It's just so cute.
But also sweet of him to not let like his opinion of how much Aedion is a fuck up. He doesn't let her know. Like, he's not like, ugh, Aedion. He's like, oh, you're right, he's very good.
Yeah. I agree. It's very sweet.
They're trying to show that he's not a dick. And I will say, by the end of this book, I don't hate him. Mm-hmm. But I'm annoyed at myself that I don't hate him.
Yeah, that's
like
fair.
It seems like his entire character flops. Like a switcheroo.
Yeah. 2
different people.
Well, yes. And I think it is intentional writing. So yeah, she basically agrees to help him, and he tells her to go get breakfast and come back and he'll have some armor for her. And Evangeline leaves, and Lysandra asks why. And he just says that Nox has likely gone off and like changed his allegiances. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure Evangeline's allegiances are also to Aedion, and Aelin, but sure. But he says that he's run off and he's sending out letters, likely for Aedion at the moment. And he also says no child should have to watch their friends cut down. And seeing her face yesterday reminded him of the children 10 years ago. And I think Lysandra at this point is like, so you would take on, like, the ward of a whore. And he's like, you might think I'm a bastard, but I'm not heartless. So she thanks him. And it really is a moment of us being like, oh, I guess he's not awful. So we go over to Aedion's point of view, and Morath is trying to fix the tower. But I guess the tower's not moving, but they are advancing. And Ren looks into the distance and asks, what's that? So Aedion looks up and sees it's thousands of iron teeth on wyverns. And they're just like, oh, we're fucking screwed.
Yeah, we're fucked.
Yeah. So I'm assuming these are from the Ferrian Gap. That is my assumption.
I would hope so.
Yeah.
But wait. Just wait.
Okay.
Just wait.
Yes.
Okay, so remember when Manon landed to talk to Petra and all the witches there?
Yeah.
Were they not the Ferrian Gap witches?
They were.
So she gave a really impassioned speech.
Yes.
So I can't...
My point was about the timelines.
Right. Oh, fuck.
Sorry. But yes, if these are the same witches, then they all heard her impassioned speech and realistically should all be on her side now.
Yes. But, like, I guess... So, realistically, there are two hosts, right? Because there's the Morath host. Mm-hmm. And then there's the Ferrian Gap host.
Yes. So, we don't know for sure that these are from the Ferrian Gap.
No. And we don't, like...
Ever.
Yeah.
No.
And could they have blended into one big group?
Actually, now that we say that, I think that Vernon got sent to the Ferrian Gap with the wyverns, and then he got left there, and all of them went off. So it is technically the ones from the Ferrian Gap.
Right.
But also from Morath.
So it's a combination.
So half of them got the impassioned speech.
Well, this is not confusing at all.
Not even a little bit. Timeline is on point. So Lysandra runs up and she's like, what can I do? She's like, tell me what to turn into. Tell me what, like, I will do anything. And he's just like, there's nothing. And soldiers start to move away, but Aedion yells at them to hold the lines. And then Aedion tells Lysandra to grab Evangeline and run. But she says, like, it won't matter. Morath will find them anyway, but he begs her. And she's like, why aren't you asking for the other allies to run? And he says, because he isn't in love with the other allies.
Fuck you, dude.
Yep. And then he says he should have told her every day these past months that he loved her. And she starts to cry and holds his hand. And I'm like, you deserve the fucking world. You deserve the world.
Yeah. She's literally carrying this fucking army on her entire back.
Literally and physically and metaphorically and any other way you can carry somebody. She's doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. This mediocre white man
only has to say the L word twice, and she's like, okay.
Yeah.
I hate it.
I just think she deserves so much better.
I do too. She deserves Rolf.
I would ship it. I ship him with everybody. I ship him with me.
Or Ren. I think Ren would treat her right.
I think he would put her on a pedestal.
Yeah.
But, like, in a, like...
I know. She's
not a real person way.
I know, but still.
But he would treat her better doing that than Aedion ever will. So... Someone near them yells, wyverns from the north, which is the complete opposite direction. And then 13 are barreling towards them, but Aedion recognizes Manon, basically. So tells them all to hold their fire. And Manon lands in front of him, and he sees that she has, like, a star crown. And he's like, oh, she's the Kraken Queen now.
Yay, Manon!
Love it. Darrow shows up in another we're supposed to start liking him kind of way. And says that they won't surrender. And Manon is just like, yeah, that's why we're here, to ensure that you won't. And he asks why her master told her to come. And she says that they have no master, but they are here to honor a promise to Aelin Galathinius. And he says, what promise? Because he's all worried. And she's like, the promise of a better world. And it's just like, fuck you, Darrow.
Yeah. Aelin did that, not you.
Yeah. So, Manon then says, like, the Krakens and, I guess, Terrassen have a long history of being allies. So they've come again, and they're going to fight together. And Aedion's just like, how many do you have? Because we're fucked.
Right now,
and she's like, yeah, she's like, look and see. And he looks behind him, and there's just, like, a shit ton of Krakens flying towards them. So we go to Manon's point of view, and they race to get here, and 5,000 Krakens showed up to fight with them. And we're like, we thought that they were killed to extinction almost, the Krakens, but there are 5,000 of them in fighting shape.
However,
wild.
However, I will say, there's 5,000 of them versus an army of over 100,000.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. It's not great. There's not going to be 5,000 of them walking away.
No. It's unfortunate.
It is. So Astrid tells Manon that her grandmother is here because she can feel her. And Manon is like, yeah, I know. And then Manon tells Aedion that they'll handle the Iron Teeth. And he's like, yeah, by all means, go ahead. Thank you. And she says that she's going to leave Vesta to communicate back and forth. And then she looks at Darrow and says, you're welcome, and gives him, like, a toothy smile. And then she flies away. So we have a bit of a time jump, and Manon meets with the humans, and the Krakens aren't going to win this war, but they might be able to hold off the aerial army for a bit. And then they just have to hope for a miracle.
Amazing.
But... Sorry?
I said amazing.
Yeah. But they also need to destroy the tower because if they get that up and running, they're all fucked. So she also sets up the Krakens so that, like, they know how to fight the Iron Teeth and they've all got whatever. And then her and the 13 find a room for the night. And she, like, throws at her bedroll and it, like, reminds her of Dorian, but she has to stop herself from thinking about him so that she doesn't just fly to him because she's worried about him.
Oh my god.
Yeah. The next day, Astrid is the 13 are just talking, and Astrid says they know every move that the Iron Teeth will make because they taught it to them, and they've told the Krakens all of it, so, like, they are gonna win. But Manon tells them they followed her this far, but tomorrow they will fight their own kind, and she won't blame them if they can't do it. And Sorrel says they came this far because they knew what would happen, and Astrid says they aren't afraid. And then Vesta says she expected some of them to join. Which, so did the reader.
Yeah.
But Ghislaine says that they don't really understand what they offered them because they offered them freedom, and, like, that's not really a thing for the witches. Manon says that she would rather fly with them than with 10,000 Iron Teeth, and tomorrow they'll show them why. And they do their, like, 2-finger salute to each other, and Manon says, we're the 13 from now until the darkness claims us. Which, love it.
Yeah.
we quickly go to Lysandra's point of view, and Evangeline doesn't want to work for Darrow anymore. She wants to work for a Kraken witch.
Love it.
And one actually gave her an extra red cloak, and she's like being tucked into bed wearing it right now, which is just the cutest. Manon says that they can keep the Iron Teeth at bay, but there are still 100,000 soldiers. And, like, obviously that's a lot. But Lysandra goes to find Aedion, and she says that she thought that they would die today. And he was like, yeah, we were going to die today. That would have happened.
Now it's just tomorrow.
Yeah. And she says she's still angry at him, but she's going to think about what he said. And he just starts to tease her. And I'm like, I don't like this. I'm like, this is not the time to tease her. She's being deadly serious. She's still mad at you. You were still a dick.
Yep.
But he says that he's in love with her again. And she says, just don't die tomorrow. And he says so that she can have time to think about it. And she's like, yeah. And he asks if he can request something. And she says he's not in a position to, but she'll hear him out. And he says if he doesn't die tomorrow, can he kiss her? And she says if he doesn't die tomorrow, they'll talk about it. And she thinks to herself that, like, she should be thinking no. But she thinks to herself she won't kiss him now, and she won't give, like, that promise or that farewell. So she just says, until tomorrow, and then, like, walks away.
Ugh. I want her to be more mad.
Yeah. But I guess I get that they're dying.
I guess. Okay, so we move to Dorian's point of view. So he's just coming out, obviously, of, like, escaping Morath and, like, letting it break apart. And he flew, like, super far, super fast, like, as fast as he could for the first couple of days, just to put as much distance as he could. And then he stopped to eat and drink. And before he gets into it, he actually summons Gavin.
Yeah.
It's, like, his favorite thing to do.
I know, I was like, is this one necessary?
They're all necessary.
Mm-hmm.
So Gavin asks, so I guess Gavin sensed that he had the keys and asked why he summoned him. Like, dude, why am I here?
Yeah.
And Dorian told him it was so he could say goodbye to Elena before the lock was forged. So he's just like...
fair, I guess.
Yeah, he's just like giving him a heads up. Like, hey, I've got the lock. I've got the keys. I'm going to forge the lock. Like, your wife is going to dissipate into nothing. So, like, maybe see you later.
Yeah.
Gavin asks if he decided whether it would be him or Aelin to be the sacrifice. And Dorian tells him that he's going to meet up with Aelin in the north and they would decide together, which to me is a cop-out.
Yeah.
To me, that's I don't want to do it. I'm hoping I'll meet up with her.
I don't want to decide.
Yeah. Which I don't like.
Yeah.
Anyway, he is hoping that she's come up with another plan that will spare both of them. And also spare Elena. So Gavin thanks him for considering trying to spare Elena's soul, but, like, he knows that Elena made her choice long ago, and is prepared to, like, face the consequences.
He knows that now, after originally he was like, I'm not even going to tell you if it's at Morath because I don't want to lose her.
Yeah. I guess,
he's completely changed his tune.
Yes, he has. So then Dorian... So, like, again, Dorian is thinking of Sorsha now, and, like, I don't remember 100%, but he's like, oh, Sorsha also made her own choices. And then he's like, the memory of Sorsha does not make him ache for the first time. And, like, it reminds him to make everything he does count. And I'm like... I feel like it was like 2 chapters ago that you were like, meh, Sorsha, her, like, I can't even think of her name, meh. And now, like, what happened in those, like, 2 days, or, like, 2 chapters or whatever? You went from, meh, I can't even say her name, to now, oh, she made her choices, and I just have to live for her. Like, it just seems so weird.
Well, yeah, because he was even talking to Maeve, and she was like, you can go to, like, the afterworld, and you can talk to people that are dead. And he's like, yes, I want to do that. I want to talk to Sorsha. So when did that change?
Yeah. So I was very confused.
Fair.
Anyway, Gavin tells him not to be so quick to give up on life, and that his life with Elena is what makes saying goodbye to her bearable. So essentially he's like, oh, don't be so quick to want to die. And I'm like, no, be quick to want to die.
I don't want him to die either.
I mean, I don't want him to, but I'd rather him than Aelin.
Yeah, I guess. I just am like, I don't like how it goes either.
No. Anyway, so they hear the beating of thousands of wings. It's the host from Morath, and he knows they're going to meet up with the rest of the army. So I just wrote that this is obviously taking place a few days before Aedion's story. So before he leaves, Dorian promises that he will take care of Adelin. I mean, only if he lives.
Yeah. And, fuck, I know you're going to say it, but I just need to cut in because Gavin has done a complete 180 from the last time we saw him. Because he's literally like, I knew you would. And it's like, fuck you. Last time you were talking to him, you were like, you fucked up. This is your fault. Which, like, is not wrong. But also, how is he a completely different person right now?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wild.
Anyway, so before somebody leaves, I don't know if it's Dorian, before Dorian's like, okay, peace out, he promises that he will take care of Adelin and asks if, when the word gate is sealed, can he open a portal like this again? But Gavriel doesn't know, but he hopes so. So that is one thing we don't know. Like, once they seal the word gate, can they still use word marks?
Yeah. True.
So as the wyverns fly overhead, Dorian becomes a wyvern, and Ben blends in to fly with them. And I'm like, I feel like it would be recognized that he's flying without a witch.
Yeah. Maybe she fell off.
Maybe.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean.
Anyway, so we go to Manon's point of view. There's no armor left for the witches. Even though Aedion, offered to find scraps of metal to, repurpose or to forge. But Manon's like, oh, that would be too heavy, so just they abstain. They head out on the balcony with Glennis and Bronwyn, and they're both ready for battle, which is surprising, because Glennis is, really old. Really old. And so this is the thing. So the Iron Teeth host of around 1,000 that's there does not include the Ferrying Gap Legion.
Oh.
And they're like, we don't know where that legion is. So,
I haven't.
Now my timeline is very screwy.
But I also don't remember anyone else showing up, so I'm very confused.
I don't know. So, anyway, we're just gonna move past it for now.
Yeah, we have to. What else are we gonna do?
So, Bronwyn is holding this horn, and she explains to Manon that it's a relic from her ancestor, Telin Venora, who was a young witch that blew the horn when Rhiannon died to signal to the Krakens to run. And right after she sounded it, the Blue Bloods matron killed her, but it was enough of a warning that other Krakens managed to escape and survive. So now they are using the horn to rally the Krakens. And it's not as a warning, but as a call to arms.
Yeah.
Glennis is like, I'm fighting too, bitches.
Love Glennis.
And she says, like, even though her mother chose to save the royal bloodline, she has felt the weight of not fighting besides her people. So Glennis will do that to ease the burden her mother carried. And I'm like, Glennis, this is not the time.
Yeah.
Like, this is not the time for your heroics. And, like, the burden of saving a baby instead of fighting and dying, that's a burden now?
Yeah.
I'm just annoyed about it.
No, that's fair.
I just think it's a silly thing. Like, she felt guilty her whole life. So, like, Glennis has also felt that guilt. To me, that's the silly part. That Glennis feels the need to pay the debt that her mother incurred by saving a baby.
Yeah, that's fair.
So she just tells them that they all have someone standing behind them as they fight. And Astrid really is affected by those words and puts her hand over her abdomen and thinks of her stillborn baby and the hunter that she loved. And Glennis just says, oh, this is the final stand of the Krakens. So, yikes.
So they're all gonna just
They're all gonna die,
This is the final. This is the end.
Yeah. So we move to Lysandra's point of view. She's below the city where the king of Orinth had built like sewers and subterranean streams that allowed the Florine River that flows from, I think it flows from the ocean all the way through Terrassen, but it flows directly under the city. So they're inside Orinth, and I guess they make their way down into these sewers. She jumps in the water and transforms into something. And follows the current of the river to get into position. Then we go to Aedion's point of view. So him and Ren are watching the Krakens take off, and he has to make sure the fire lances and the catapults are in place. They know the battle is upon them, and nothing else is going to delay it. And he just tells Ren they need to make this fight worthy of a song. So again, like, he doesn't actually think they're going to win, but he wants to make it memorable. And I'm like,
yeah,
you want to make it worthy of a song? Who's going to live to sing it?
Well, yeah.
If you lose this fight, the entire world is gone.
And also, if anyone's singing a song on the other side, they're not going to talk about your heroics.
Agreed. So Manon and the 13 take to the skies, and they're hoping, like, their goal is to just take on the Iron Teeth. Because obviously the Wyvern and the Iron Teeth are very powerful against human soldiers with not the same set of weapons, like skill set and stuff. So
yeah,
they want to distract the Iron Teeth. And the Iron Teeth, like Manon actually says, the Iron Teeth didn't train against an enemy that could fight back. They really only trained in fighting, like, humans.
Yeah.
So Manon hoped that they could stand a chance, considering, like, the Krakens on their brooms are smaller and faster. Mm-hmm. So the goal, though, for them, they're trying to target the witches, not the wyverns themselves. So Manon flies high above to see the whole host. And at the back, she can see Iskra, the bitch. Yeah. But she doesn't see Petra anywhere. Petra, who heard her impassioned speech.
Yes. And I just have hope for Petra.
Mm-hmm. When I think of Petra, I think of, like, a hippy-dippy, like, flower child.
Yeah.
Who's also a killing machine.
Same. Yeah. Both things can be true.
Yeah. So the fight begins, and the 13 become a battering ram, smashing through the Iron Teeth formation, killing as they go. Then we go back to Lysandra's point of view. There's a lot of jumping around in this bit.
Yes.
So she is waiting patiently in the icy river, and she's watching the fighting. And sometimes a Kraken witch will land in the river, and Lysandra will, like, push them out to safety. But if an Iron Teeth lands in the river, she pins them to the bottom until they drown.
Badass.
But, like, she also says that she can't look them in the eye as she does that.
Yeah.
Which is, like, valid. So she hears a horn, and I guess that was her symbol, her sound, her signal. So she jumps out of the water and lands on Morath's eastern flank. And, like, I think she's a water, like, she's a water dragon.
Yeah.
So she just, like, shimmies around and, like, squirms and wiggles on the ground, and then jumps back in the river, avoiding all of their shots on her. And she just keeps doing that at different parts of the army because the river, like, flows all along the edge where they're all marching. So she just, like, pops up, lands on a bunch, squirmies around, goes yan yan yan, and then goes back in the river and then disappears again for a bit. And she doesn't have, like, a rhyme or reason of battling or picking targets or anything like that. She's just doing it randomly so that they can't catch her. So then we go to Aedion's point of view. He is using the fire lances on the front lines. So he's just, like, lighting a bunch of people on fire. And
like you do.
He says that the battle is so bloody and violent, there's a blue mist in the air from the Krakens and Iron Teeth killing each other. Which is wild, but cool.
Yeah.
Aedion orders the Mycenaeans on the gates with their lances, and he's, like, shooting arrows at the siege ladders. So they start with the catapults, and boulders are shot into the sky, and then they fire arrows at them, which light them on fire, and they land into holes, and those holes were filled with explosives, and then the stones explode, and then it just causes a ton of damage. So the first valg makes it over the wall, but is dead instantly. But then the second one is a valg prince, so Aedion decides to take that one on himself. So he is fighting the prince, and he knows that there is a Mycenaean wielding a fire lance close by. So he's like, "Oh, I'll just get him over to that guy, and we'll burn him." But then he looks, and that soldier is dead. The valg prince then starts sending his dark power at Aedion, who uses his shield to deflect it. But so, like, the thing is he didn't expect his shield to actually fully deflect it.
Yeah.
But it does. So he's like, "Oh shit, what's going on with my shield?"
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We talked about his shield, was that last week or 2 weeks ago? That it's actually Orlan's shield? Or Ro's shield?
Yeah.
One of them.
Yeah. So I guess that's the thing. So he was like, he thought, "Oh, there's something weird going on with my shield because it's deflecting this power." And he's like, "Well, there's no magic in it. It's just a shield passed down from Ro, who is Aelin's dad. And, like, Brannon never owned it, so it's not, like, crazy that way. But it was forged by the unbroken line of kings and queens who came from Brannon and carried the shield into battle. And so maybe there's, like, a different kind of power in the shield because it's only been used to defend Terrassen. And, like, it just makes the shield stronger." And in my head, I'm like, "It's love, Harry." You know what I mean? Like, it's love.
Yeah. I get it.
So, Aedion fights with the prince. Prince manages to stab his armpit. Well, I don't actually know if it's his armpit. It could just be his arm, but I think it's his armpit. And then he falls backward. The shield is on top of him. The prince, like, climbs onto him. But then an arrow is shot through his throat. And Ren is there with a fire lance and, like, burns the prince to ash. And Aedion just tells Ren, he's like, "I had him," before he passes out. So, I don't think he had him.
No.
So, we go to Evangeline's point of view now. She's delivering messages to Darrow, and she's going from the castle stairs to the council room. And her latest message tells Darrow that Aedion has been injured and healers are working on him. And Evangeline is super worried because she's never had a brother or a father and didn't know which she wanted Aedion to be. Right. Why couldn't he just be a friend?
Yeah, also, what is Lysandra?
Good question.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. So, anyway, so she's just really worried about Aedion, and Darrow sees that and asks her to stay with him instead of delivering messages. So, like, again, he's being kind to her. And he sends for, like, beef broth and has her drink it. But she's still, like, worried for her friends and everything that are down there. So, then we go to Aelin's point of view. Aelin's point of view. So, she knows they're taking too long. Because they've been traveling for a week. And they would still be another 10 days before they reached Orinth. And I'm like, so are Aedion and Lysandra fighting in Orinth right now?
Yeah.
In this timeline?
Oh. No fucking idea. I doubt it. I haven't read too much further, but there's a snowstorm at some point. So, like, it can't be.
Because it's been 2 weeks since Aniel.
Yeah.
Or no, it hasn't. Well, yeah. No, it probably has. Because they've been traveling for a week, and they stuck around for a few days to figure out the stuff with the wild men after the battle.
Yeah.
So they want to try and sneak up on Morath in Orinth. And they're like, if there's anything left to sneak up on, implying that maybe Orinth will be gone by the time they get there. So they're actually almost at Endovier. And that night, like, Aelin's super stressed about being close to Endovier.
Yeah. Fair.
Yeah, 100% fair. So that night, to distract her, I guess, Rowan finishes her tattoo. The one that's on her back that Maeve destroyed. Yeah. And it was the story of them, of Rowan and Aelin. He wrote out their story. She asks him if she's a coward for wanting to avoid Endovier. Because on one hand, she says she wants to burn it down, but also she can't bear to look at it. So, like, how can I do both things?
Yeah.
And he tells her that that's what makes her human. And that sort of, like, reminds her, like, oh shit, I am a human deep down. I'm just one that can turn into a fae. But, like, she hasn't been in her human form in weeks. And she just tells him she's glad he'll be with her when she sees Endovier again. And he says, yeah, me too. So we go to Elite's point of view. And she heads back to her tent with Lorcan after helping Irene in the wagon all day. Even though they can't share a bed, they share a tent every night. Why can't they share a bed?
Because they're so tiny. And, like, because they have cots? Like, I don't know.
I don't know either. So, Lorcan rubs, like, the salve on her foot to take away the pain, and, like, he's rubbing her foot and getting her all hot and bothered. And then he reminds her that she truly is Lady of Peranth now, because Vernon's probably dead. And I'm like, I appreciate the sentiment, but maybe not the appropriate thing to joke about. And she wonders if she is any better than Vernon, seeing how she chose to have him die.
And this is what I mean. Why are we deciding to give her the guilt?
Yeah, agreed. You could have had none of it. Instead, you got all of it. Yeah. Lorcan just tells her that, like, Vernon deserved it. Okay, so Lorcan wants to have her get a bath, and like he wants her to eat, and he would just want to take care of her.
Yeah.
So like he is going to leave her for like modesty purposes, so she can like get in the bath by herself. But she tells him that she needs help. She might slip in the bath. And, like, they even say, they're like, oh my god, bath time is so dangerous. You definitely need help. Like, they're just trying to joke around with each other, and I really love it.
It's kind of cute. I like it.
So she starts to strip for him, but then she just asks for his help. And, like, she is super innocent and tells him that, like, she doesn't know what to do, and he has to show her everything. So he does. Boo. So that's the quintessential scene that everyone hates with a fiery burning passion because
we don't get the sex.
Yeah, because people wanted to know what everything was.
Yeah, fair.
And they don't know. So we go to Aelin's point of view. And she is dreaming of an iron coffin and a gate and having to choose but not choosing either. Like, she has to make a choice, but she's trying not to pick. And it's just sort of alluding to her having to choose between her and Dorian and her trying to get out of both of them.
Yeah.
And Cairn is there and he's telling her that she's no better than him. And then the coffin is, like, thumping, and there's, like, female screams inside. And then 12 figures stand around her, calling her a liar, a traitor, and a coward. I don't really know where that comes from.
I guess because she doesn't want to be, like, she's hoping Dorian's gonna do it. Like, I guess. But.
So, she sees blood on the gate from the one she let go in her place. So, aka, like, if she lived, it would be Dorian's blood.
Yeah.
And the thumping is, like, really hot. And she just goes to her room. And then, all of a sudden, the thumping was, like, her in the box. And, like, she opens the box from the outside and just sees herself in there, like, she got chains on, she's wearing that mask and stuff, and she's just having a really awful dream, just remembering her trauma.
Yeah.
She's remembering it.
Yeah, she's not just healed.
Yeah. So, the next morning, so she wakes up from that nightmare, and she just can't go back to sleep. So, the next morning, they ride past Endovir, and Aelin just feels really heavy, but she keeps it in mind that she escaped both Endovir and Maeve. So, like, she can't be broken.
Yeah.
So they are on the go. It's the afternoon, and she and Aelin are riding together. And Aelin just tells her she didn't think she would ever see Terrassen again after her uncle took her to Morath. And that she was afraid. Where am I? I've lost my place. Oh, right. She was afraid she would die in the tower with no one to remember her. And this is something that I forgot about. What happened to her nursemaid? Was her nursemaid just left in Paranth? Or not?
Yeah, it seems like it, because she's like, she thinks, oh no, what if she died? And I'm like, oh shit, I didn't even realize she was left there, to be honest.
Yeah. So Aelin just tells her that she didn't think she would ever see it again either, but we both survived, so we're gonna be okay. It's a very emotional, uplifting little moment. Yeah. So they pass Endovir, and the Rooks shout out a warning, and this wyvern lands, and then transforms, and it's Dorian! So, like, they were worried it was a enemy, but it wasn't.
Of course, yeah.
So, obviously the wyvern is Dorian, and Aelin just, like, sensed him immediately without having to say anything. So, like, obviously she's better at magic than Erewhon too.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. I just, like, how? How did he miss it all? He did, though.
I don't know, but they're just all being super careful now because Dorian just shows her that he has all 3 keys. So, like, they have to really keep it safe.
Yeah.
So, we go to Aedion's point of view. His arms and his ribs are on fire. The healer, like, stitched him up, and he passed out, and then he woke up to the pain again. But, like, now he's all stitched, but still in a decent amount of pain, and it's his sword arm, which is bad. Yeah. So he just says he has to wait for his Fey healing to work. So he'd only been outside for about an hour, but there was, like, blood and bodies everywhere. He couldn't see Lysandra out by the river doing her thing. And he just sort of knew that because she stopped that surprise, something would have gone wrong and they would have used it to their benefit. Yeah. Morith figured out that because, like, they figured out that Lysandra had, like, creeped out of the inner city through the sewers. Mm-hmm. So, a boat is now heading down the river to try and get past the grate. Like, the one that's preventing anyone from getting out or in. And I think about... Yeah. Sorry, all of my references are movie references today, but I think about the Little Mermaid 2.
Oh, God.
I
don't think I... Sorry.
I know. So, like, in the beginning, the little 12-year-old is out playing in the ocean, and there's a huge wall around her entire castle with, like, little grates just for water to be able to flow through. And there was a loose one, and she managed to jimmy it loose and, like, move it to the side so she could squeeze through, and then she put it back so it didn't look damaged.
Yeah.
So I'm just, like, thinking this in my head. It's like that. I don't remember why I brought that up.
Because they're going towards
the grate. So, yeah. So, Aedion starts shouting and yelling orders for the 13 to, like, get back to the castle to help them stop Morath from entering the city. So, like, there's shit going on and he needs help.
Yeah.
So, we go to Manon's point of view. And she sees Aedion calling for them and sees what's happening. That, like, this... And I'll be honest with you, I didn't 100% understand, like, this boat floating down the river and, like, but able to get into this underground sewer part.
And also... When Lysandra went in, she was like, close the grate so nobody can get in.
Yeah.
So, like...
I don't understand their, like, we have to stop them. I didn't get it.
I was confused, too. But I was like, not my part to figure out.
It was my part, and I still didn't figure it out.
Yeah, I don't think there was any figuring it out.
So, anyway, so Aedion is, like, frantically calling for them to come and help, and obviously they have, like, thousands of witches on wyverns to deal with first.
Yeah.
So, like, she's turned to the wall, and she's, like, about to call out to the 13 to, like, come on, let's go help. And she turns to the wall, and then she doesn't see Iskra come from below. And
the bitch.
I know, and her wyvern clamps onto Abraxas's throat. And, like, it just keeps, like, reiterating, Manon literally just keeps reiterating over and over in her head, like, she can't breathe. She's so afraid for Abraxas because, like, he isn't clamping so hard that it's instant death. Like, he's doing it, to torture almost.
Yeah.
And, like, it's obviously going to be it's going to be a long time to, not a long time to heal, but, like, it's a serious injury.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, he's not doing it to kill him immediately.
Yeah.
And he is cutting off his air supply, obviously. So he's like, she's like thinking in her head, oh my god, no, nothing is worth it anymore. Life is meaningless. If he dies, I'll be nothing. Like, she is spiraling.
Yeah.
So Abraxas is, like, still keeping them in the air. So, like, she grabs one of her arrows and shoots it into the wyvern's head, but, like, he doesn't let go. And, like, again, she's freaking out and panicking in her head. Then she gets another arrow, shoots it into the other wyvern's jaw, but that doesn't help. Mm-hmm. And, like, Abraxas's wings are beginning to slow, and, like, he's slowing down. She knows that, like, soon he's gonna start to fall. And Manon knows, like, it can't end like this, and she's sobbing and screaming and, like, begging, please, please, please. And, like, Iskra's just, like, laughing. And Abraxas starts to fall. But, like, she can tell that the way he's positioning himself is he's diving. Like, he can't keep them in the air anymore, so he's diving. Yeah. And for some reason, she understands that the very particular way that he's falling, he's doing it so that she could survive.
Yeah.
So she's begging Iskra, like, please, please. So, like, she knows, like, he taught her what love is. Like, she wants to know what love is. Anyway. Sorry. So, like, she's just thinking now, too, that, like, she doesn't care about the waist, she doesn't care about the Krakens, or the Iron Teeth, or her crown if Abraxas dies. So, like...
Wild.
Yeah. She's realizing, like, how much she actually cares about him. So, she just decides she's gonna climb out of her saddle, and she rips her gloves off, and she tells Abraxas that she loves him, and thinks that, like, he is all that matters in her life. And so she is preparing to jump. She's going to, like, jump onto the other wyvern and, like, I don't know, I can't remember if her plan was to attack Iskra or to, like, attack the other wyvern so that he lets go, but her plan was just to, like, it was very impulsive.
Yeah, of course.
Anyway, so she is getting ready to jump when something rams into Iskra's, like, wyvern, and it makes him release his jaws from Abraxas's neck. Surprise, surprise, it's Petra!
Love it.
Yay! And she has her legion of hundreds slam into the other Iron Teeth witches.
Yay. So they did listen.
They did listen. So, like, but I'm just wondering, like, was nobody like, excuse me, where's the other one? Like, was nobody like, where are those other witches that, like Petra's one of the matron's daughter? Like, you would think that they would notice if she wasn't there.
Yeah, which makes me wonder, like, were the first witches to get there the ones from the Farian Gap, and then Morath witches came, did they only just show up? Like, has Petra not been fighting yet?
Yeah.
Or was she fighting on that side the whole time and then was just like, I'm going to switch now?
No, I feel like they're brand new to the fight.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting.
Anyway, so I would, my brain, the witches fighting are the ones from Morath, and then Petra's got all the ones from the Gap.
Okay, yeah.
That's just my immediate thought.
Yes. Sorry, she was at the Gap.
Yeah.
Yes, I knew that. Sorry.
I know you did.
So yeah, maybe the ones from the Gap only just showed up recently.
Yeah. Because, like, Vernon, I doubt, has been there long to, like, tell them to go.
Yeah.
Anyway. So she tells Manon, like, we've got this. I'm just trying to... That's from a song. We've got this. We've got this. We've got this together. Oh, it's the My Little Pony movie.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, God. Dear sweet mother of pearl. Anyway, so, she just says, like, we got this. You go to the wall where you're needed. And tells Manon and everybody in earshot that Iskra is hers. And then she says, go to Manon again. And then says, for Keely. So, like, she still remembers her wyvern that she had a connection to that saved her life.
Yeah, of course.
After Iskra's bull killed her. And I'm wondering, like, is your wyvern now chopped liver? Like, you just...
Like the one she has now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You just don't have a connection with this one?
She probably does, but she's still, like, wants payback for the first time.
I guess. Anyway, so they head for the wall, and Manon knows that, like, Abraxas is flying slowly. He's, like, getting lower and lower to the ground. She's like, well, shit, he needs a healer. And then but then she's like, let's turn and watch Iskra and Petra fight.
Yeah.
What? There's no battle going on around us. There's no war. So they do this thing where they fly high in the sky and then they go to plummet downward, and apparently it's part of, like, this weird, like, battle for supremacy thing amongst wyverns. I don't really get it.
Yeah.
But they go to plummet downward, but as they're diving down, Petra, like, breaks away. I guess, I don't know if they're, like, attacking each other as they're diving. And then Petra breaks away and flies in, like, really tight concentric circles around Iskra and her bull so that he can't open up his wings and stop. So he's just diving, and her wyvern is flying, like, round. And it's genius. So, like, they keep going, and, like, they're 200 meters from the ground. Then they're 100 meters from the ground. And Iskra keeps yelling at Petra to, like, pull up and, like, let her and her bull pull up. Because at that speed, there's no way that a wyvern could bank and make it. So, like...
And you're like, you just laughed at Manon for pleading with you,
yeah.
You bitch.
Yes. And now you're like, come on, pull up. And it's like, no, you brought this upon yourself, you awful person.
Yeah.
So Manon is like, oh my god, she's going to sacrifice herself. She's sacrificing her wyvern so that Iskra gets her, like, comeuppance and, like, gets her, you know what. And, but then at the last second, doing a move that nobody thought you could do, Petra pulls up and, like, banks and does this crazy move. And everyone's like, holy shit, people can't do that. Like, they didn't think anyone would be able to do it. And I think, unless I'm, like, going crazy or, like, hallucinating, I think Manon, like, makes a comment of, like, that's what she's been doing this whole time in the Faring Gap, or, like, she must have been training a lot or something like that.
Yeah.
I think
she does. She's like,
think there's
she
a
must
comment
have,
like that. Yeah.
Yeah. She must have, like, been practicing this for this moment.
Yeah. Thank you. See, I knew I wasn't hallucinating. Anyway, so Iskra and her bull hit the ground and obviously go kersplat. And Petra does not. So Manon and Sorrel, Vesta, and Astrid, like, they just watch this for a bit and then they're like, oh yeah, forgot. And they turn around and they destroy the boat trying to gain access to the passage in some way. Like, is it a submarine? I don't know.
Like, I guess, remember in OG Throne of Glass, like, there's a grate when she goes a certain way and then there's a boat there, and that's how, well, actually this is, I guess, Empire of Storms, but that's how Dorian and Rowan get away, is they, like, jump into a boat through this door. So, like, I assume it's something like that.
But I thought the grate was entirely underwater because she jumps in it and then it's an underwater creature.
She tells them to close the grate. Yeah. I don't get how they'd get past the grate. Maybe there's, like, a mechanism to open it, but, like, that defeats the purpose of safety.
Yeah.
So I don't get it.
Yeah, me neither. I find it very confusing. So there are other soldiers trying to gain access. So they're like, well, shit, what are we going to do? So they decide to go get a ton of huge rocks, and they just keep dropping them over and over. Well, the wyverns do. The witches are doing shit all.
Yeah.
The wyverns are grabbing these huge rocks and bringing them over and dropping them in front of the grate until it piles up high enough that they can't do it.
They can't get in. Yeah. It's smart.
It is. It's very smart. But, like, with every trip with the rocks, Abraxas is flying lower and lower, and, like, the wound is really bad. So...
Like, 12 wyverns are enough to get enough rocks. Like,
but it's not...
Go get him...
But it's also not all of them. It's only 4 of them.
Oh, okay, fine.
Yeah.
Like, 3, then, could do this work and do it fast enough.
Yeah.
Like, I think she should probably not be doing this.
Yeah. Okay. So, Astrid yells at Manon to get behind the wall. Like, get into the keep. So she does. And they land, and she gets a look at it, and she yells for a healer. And then the 13 land, / the 12. And they all press their hands to his wound to try and, like, staunch the blood. Like, they're working as a unit.
Yeah, love it.
So a healer comes to help, but the 13 are not going anywhere, which is cute.
Yeah.
So, we move to Lysandra's point of view. So, she saw what went down with the witches. So, she transforms into a wyvern to go back to the castle to see what's going on. And she sees a couple people hauling Aedion back and asks what happened. And Ren tells her he was attacked by a valg prince and didn't rest long enough, so he tore his stitches. So, like, the very beginning part, we saw him fight a valg prince and get stabbed, like, essentially in the armpit, I think.
Yeah. Where the chink is missing.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
And then he went and got healed by a healer and got stitches, and then immediately was like, I'm gonna fight again.
Yeah.
So Lysandra's like, you should probably rest. But he's like, nah.
Yeah. And to be fair, if he wasn't there, would anyone have noticed that that boat was trying to do whatever it was trying to do?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
So, she waves Manon over for a second and asks her, like, if Abraxas is gonna be okay. And Manon's like, I think so. But Lysandra's like, well then, on to the bad news.
I love Lysandra.
She's like, now that this good news is out of the way, here's some bad news. The witch tower is operational again. And it's moving. It's coming this way. And there are Iron Teeth witches on top of it. And so, like, they're concerned that the witch tower will have enough force to, like, blow the wall apart. So
yeah, like, it would not be good.
No, and, like, if it does blow the wall apart, then that sort of defeats their defensive strategy of hiding behind the wall.
Yeah.
So then, like, because it's, like, Beetlejuice and it knows when you're talking about it, the tower goes off. Like, they fire it, and it obliterates witches flying in the sky. And, like, it just aims at the witches and shoots and kills them and, like, turns them all to dust. It doesn't matter who they are, right? So there are some Krakens in there, there were some Iron Teeth in there, like, they shot and killed their own people.
But they don't care.
Yeah, it didn't matter. And Lysandra just says that they intend to break apart the city. So we go back to Manon's point of view. It's so, like, jumpy.
Yeah, and I think it's fine when you're reading it. It's just when you're, like, typing and you're, like, trying to summarize that it's like, whoa. Because when you're reading it, it's like Manon, Lysandra, Manon, they're right next to each other.
Yeah.
It's like the same point of view. It's fine. Yeah. But, yeah.
Well, and because it's sort of in third person anyway, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, I'm trying to remember. I don't think, like, when it's in, like, first person, like, say if we're in Lysandra's point of view, I still don't think we get any, like, I, my, me.
No, it's
like, she still says Lysandra's thinking about this. So, like, it's third person, English teacher moment, it's third person omniscient.
Yeah.
But that almost makes it harder, because when everyone's around each other and it does a POV switch, you're like, okay, whose point of view is this?
Yeah, it takes and sometimes it takes a little while, because you're like, okay, I know the people that are here, so I've just, like...
You have to, like, process of elimination.
Yeah. And there was one time, like, I can't remember, it must have been this week, that it said something about Evangeline, and I was like, oh, is it in her point of view? And then I, like, started taking notes, because I thought it was, and then it was like, nope, this is Lysandra. She just knows what Evangeline is thinking.
Yeah, it's...
Okay.
It's very, like, can get confusing.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Manon's point of view. She knows that the tower is gonna, like, tear the castle apart in 1 or 2 blasts, and there's a ton of Iron Teeth witches waiting their turn to, like, do the yielding and die for the cause.
Yeah, which is wild.
Yeah, 100%. So she watches as, like, the Krakens and Petra are all trying to reach the tower to damage it, but, like, the Morath's putting all their defense on it. So, like, they're not letting anyone get to it. And she knows that nobody's gonna survive this witch tower. So she asks Asterin to, like, get her a wyvern. But Asterin's like, I don't think you can make it. And Manon's like, yes, I can. Like... And she was like, we've literally been training to break through enemy ranks. And, like, this has been what we've been training for, coincidentally. And she's like, oh, maybe Lysandra can carry me as a wyvern then. And then Lysandra's like, sorry, sis, I'm out of power. Like, I need an hour to rest.
Also, she would be useless. She hasn't been training
true.
Manon's wyvern. Like, she would just be like, where would she go?
Good point. Like, good point.
She'd be in the way, and she'd just be fucking shit up. I love her, obviously, but she hasn't trained as a group of what.
No, that's true.
She can't turn into 13 wyverns and train herself.
No, that's a good point. So, like, I guess everybody is a bit frantic. Mm-hmm. Like, Manon is like, I need a wyvern, get me there. I need to get there, and, like, just being a bit frantic. So the 13 all just look at each other, and they go and get on their wyverns.
Yeah.
And Asterin just looks at Manon and tells her to live. And then gut punches her. And then climbs onto her wyvern and tells Manon to bring their people home. And, like, Manon is, like, doubled over in pain. And just looks and, realizes what they're gonna do, but she can't stop them. She's, like, grounded by the time they're in the air. She's, like, she's stranded.
Yeah.
So she's just, like, looking anywhere for a witch to take her broom. Like, she's like, I want to steal a broom. But there's no one to help her. Like, she is just helpless to watch as the 13 ram against the Iron Teeth. And each witch sacrifices their body to make a path for Asterin to get to the tower. And she flies right to it without slowing down, and her wyvern's body breaks as it hits the tower, which is so sad. Because that's Abraxas's mate.
Yeah, it is so sad.
And, like, I'm just like, do you think the wyverns all know what they're up to?
They have to. Like, they're smart, and, like, her wyvern just rammed into it. Like, it's not like he didn't slow down. He just, this is what we're doing. Or she, I guess. Yeah. Yeah. Sad.
Anyway, so her wyvern hits the tower. She jumps off of it, and she's, like, throwing daggers into the back. Like, she's fighting her way.
Yeah.
She reaches the top of the tower where a witch is about to jump in and do the yielding and fire the witch tower. And she puts a dagger in the back of that witch. And Astrid fights her way towards Manon's grandmother, who just happens to be there.
Love it.
And when she gets there, she does the yielding. And then the rest of the 13 follow suit. And it blows the witch tower to smithereens. And so all the 13 are gone, except for Manon. And it's just so sad, because I love them all.
I know. And I feel like, especially this book, there was a point to, like, make sure you got to know them all a bit better. And I think it also is because Manon finally left her grandmother and started seeing them as equals and not just, like, her coven that she would boss around. So we did start seeing more of everybody, and you're like, fuck. But yeah, this was the gut punch.
It was, book. Yeah. This is, like, everyone's like, oh, you know, there's no death. There is.
Yeah.
So Manon doesn't, like, move for a really long time. She's just, like, staring at the battlefield where the 13 did their yielding and all died.
Yeah.
And then the sun goes down and it rises again, and her and Abraxas. This is something I don't understand. So, like, the witch tower, where did all the people go? This was a battlefield. Did everybody just be like, oh, better run away for a hot minute?
Like, did they retreat for a bit?
I don't know.
And why?
Don't know. If they're such mindless, like, killing machines, you would think they wouldn't have a strategy. They would just be like, forward!
Well, and you think that they wouldn't take a break.
And that they wouldn't want them to take a break.
Yeah. I was very confused by this, too.
Yeah. Anyway, so she walks out of the castle gates towards the battlefield where the 13 gave their lives. And it's quiet and it's empty. And I was like, did they win? Like, is that what happened?
Yeah.
And she reaches where the blast was, and she doesn't look behind her. But if she had turned around and looked, she would have seen Glennis, Bronwyn, Petra, Aedion, Lysandra, Wren, Rolf, Prince Gallon, Ansel, and Ilias. And they all had these little white flowers. And then behind them, there were a ton of humans and witches trailing behind, all to honor the 13. Mm-hmm. And so, like, she's just standing there, and turn by turn, people are laying flowers down at the blast site, or stones, or personal effects down on the scorched earth. And, like, she said, it soon looked like a garden. And everyone eventually leaves, except for Glennis. And she just repeats to Manon the curse from Rhiannon. Be the bridge, be the light. When iron melts, when flowers spring from fields of blood, let the land be witness and return home. So that was the curse that Rhiannon cursed the Iron Teeth witches with, so they could never go back to the wastes. And far away in the mountains, on a barren plain, aka in the wastes, a flower blooms. So it's showing that the 13 broke the curse.
Yeah.
And it's just sad.
It is so sad. I was like, all of them.
Yeah.
Fucking
I know.
all of
like,
them
just
had
take
to die.
everybody Manon loves. Thank you so much.
Well, that's the thing. I'm like, she doesn't deserve this.
No.
Everybody she fucking loves.
Now, I guess, like, technically the author would say, well, I let her keep Abraxas. So, like, but I feel like that's different.
And I did, it was interesting in the moment where she's like, shit, Abraxas could die.
Yeah.
She was like, I would give anything for him not to die. And I'm like, would you give the 12? Because that's about to fucking happen.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't like it. And, like, everybody is like, this was the gut punch of the book. Like, this was the moment. Like, SJM, how could you do that to us?
Well, yeah.
It's a
lot.
It is a lot. It's just mean.
It is mean. I just feel so bad for Manon. She, like, was finally, like, loving people and getting friends.
Not anymore.
All dead.
You don't get any of that.
She maybe gets a man if he doesn't sacrifice himself. You're like, she can't have anything. Yeah. So that's really it for this week on that sad and then hopeful, I guess, note. Even though I doubt Manon is feeling hopeful.
They broke the curse, but, like, she's all alone.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess we'll wrap it up for this week. If you want to get in touch with us and share your thoughts on anything you heard in our episodes, or if you have any book suggestions, you can reach out to us by email at coffeeandcoread@gmail.com or on Instagram or Facebook at coffeeandcoread and coffee.coread on TikTok.
So, next week we'll be reading chapters 91 to 108 of Kingdom of Ash. Make sure to follow along, and if you're enjoying our chats, don't forget to follow, rate, and review wherever you get our content. Thanks for listening, everyone, and we'll see you on the next page.